It was a chilly evening on the edge of town, the kind where you could practically hear the excitement humming in the air. Evie adjusted her coat as she stepped outside, tugging her scarf just a little tighter around her neck. Her breath made small clouds in the night, joining the faint mist that had settled in the garden. Tonight was the night, the annual fireworks celebration. She'd heard people talking about it at the cafe all week, swapping stories about past displays, fussing about which spot was best to watch from. The local park, with its sweeping lawns, had long been favored, but Evie's friends had another idea. This year, they decided to make it more intimate. Just a few of them would meet up at Peppa's place, where ample backyard space promised the best private view in town. Peppa herself greeted Evie at the door, cheeks rosy from the cold, her laugh warming the autumn air. Peppa's reputation preceded her, always the one to host, to coordinate snacks, and, somehow, to ensure everything ran smoothly even as cheerful chaos threatened. Inside, George and Susie Sheep were already debating which fireworks would make the biggest impression, the spiraling comets or the crackling sparklers. Everyone had brought something. Evie set down her homemade flapjacks by the kettle, basking for just a moment in the comfort of old friends and new traditions. They sipped mulled cider, watched the evening deepen, and swapped stories. George insisting that last year's Catherine Will had nearly set his sleeve alight, Peppa retelling the tale to much laughter. By the time the sky opened into true night, the anticipation was nearly unbearable. It fell to Evie to fetch the box of fireworks from Peppa's shed, a small act that became an adventure when she accidentally overturned a pile of garden gloves and sent a cascade of gardening tools clattering. George hurried to help, both of them suppressing giggles. After all, it wouldn't be a firework night without a little chaos. After regrouping, Peppa took command, sorting the rockets from the sparklers, reading each instruction with the seriousness of a general preparing for battle. Down went the first rocket into its base. A hush fell across the group, eyes wide, breaths held. Peppa counted down, then Susie ignited the fuse. A whisper of smoke, a fizz, then a sound like tearing silk. The rocket soared, painting a silver arc against the deep blue. Seconds later, it exploded in a victorious burst of emerald and sapphire. The crowd erupted in applause. Neighbors' cheers echoed distantly, blending with their own. Each took turns igniting a new firework. George, teeth bared in nervous concentration, set off a fierce red comet. Evie, trembling but determined, struck a match to the next one, her heart skipping as it zipped up and bloomed in violet. Peppa, watching carefully from a safe distance, reminded them all to stand back, waving the torch like a conductor's baton. But the real highlight came with a humble sparkler. Susie passed them round, handing each person their own, the box nearly empty by then. Evie watched as her friends crowded close, the sparklers hissing to life one by one, trailing silver fountains in the air. Evie couldn't help herself. She traced her name into the darkness, the glowing letters fading before she'd finished. George tried to draw a heart. Peppa made a wobbly star, and for a fleeting second the world felt softer, everyone illuminated by the fragile magic in their hands. Then, just as they'd finished with the sparklers, a sudden hush settled across the group. Somewhere further away, from the town square, came the first thumps of the public display, the official show. The garden folk didn't say a word. They simply watched, comfortable and content, curling up in blankets and letting the big booms of distant pyrotechnics wash over them. It was in these quieter moments that Evie noticed how much had changed. She remembered her first firework night, years ago, feeling lost in the crowd, flinching from the noise, the colors overwhelming. Now, wrapped in the warmth and company of friends, she felt only joy. She didn't miss the throngs of people, the shouting, the chaos. Here with Peppa and George and Susie, everything important was right in front of her. There was still the matter of the grand finale, a single golden rocket, saved for last. They stood together as Peppa raised the final lighter. This was the one everyone had chipped in for, a rocket boasting the biggest explosion in the shop. The instructions, read half in jest, half in awe, warned of noise, spectacle, and, of course, unforgettable memories. The group quieted, anticipation hanging heavy as Peppa lit the fuse. The rocket paused, sputtered hesitantly. Would it even go off? Then, with a roar, it shot skyward, trailing gold and violet sparks. There was a beat, suspense pressing in, then the night exploded into 1,000 shimmering lights. The world seemed to hold its breath as color dripped and shimmered above them, blanketing the sky, each spark reflecting in their upturned faces. The sound was bone-shaking, triumphant, the kind that echoed long after the last light faded. Afterwards, other voices could be heard up and down the street, claps blending, some strangers cheering in the dark. Someone from next door sent over a tray of gooey brownies. The night felt communal in a way that surprised them, each household celebrating together, yet apart, connected, for a while, by a shared skyline of sparkling wonder. Peppa gathered everyone inside, where warm mugs and tangled scarves greeted them. They traded favorites, comparing the blue starbursts and golden willows to those they remembered from years past. George, ever the dramatist, insisted the grand finale was the greatest firework he'd ever seen, as if each year's show could truly outdo the last. It was growing late. The embers of excitement burned low and soft, replaced by satisfaction and the ease of old company. Evie sipped her drink, laughter curling around her like smoke, grateful for this new memory, another in a line of many, each more dear as the years passed. As she gathered her things to leave, Evie glanced out at the yard. Faint trails of firework dust lingered in the cold air, like little stars coming to rest among the grass. She paused on the porch, listening. The town had gone quiet, yet for some reason it didn't feel empty, just peaceful.